And we're back.
I'm good.
Welcome. Here we
I'm
go.
ready.
All right, so we discovered the map here. Let me tell you about this trail. So,
Sorry about the technical difficulties there.
Jeez Louise.
Our guest wasn't prepared for trail forks.
I apologize. This actually isn't Trail Forks. Part of the problem here. This app is also called Strava. You guys may have heard of that. Runners use it. Swimmers, like you can use it for any kind of.
Nope. Strava.
Anyways, Strava, and this is another good one for like communities and stuff. You can it's like the Facebook for outdoor activities kind of a thing, as far as mountain biking, running, things like that.
Gotcha.
And then you can record your runs or your rides, things like that. And so that's what I did here. So that trail is 8 miles. You gain 1,400 feet in probably like 4 miles.
Oh, that sounds rough.
And then, the climb is brutal. But then dropping down off the other side of the loop, it's crazy. It's so fun, and it's just real flowy. Huh. You just it's a great place to just open up your bike and see how fast you can go. Yeah. So I think like the fastest I went is not very fast compared to other guys, but I think I got up to like 30 miles an hour going down this trail, and it's just it's super fun. So it's a cool trail.
Freaking dancing with death.
What was it called? Sardine
Canyon? Loop. Oh. Yeah. And it's Sardine Canyon's close. That's a thing. But yeah, so you go to Snow Basin and there's a trail there. Yeah. There's tons of trails around there, but that's by far the most popular because you go up and you're on top of the Wasatch Front at the end of the climb, and you look out and you can see like the whole Ogden Valley.
That's cool.
And then it goes into the Great Salt Lake. And so if you get up there during sunset, it's just you can't beat that view, man. It's amazing. It's beautiful.
That's awesome.
So you take in the view and then you rip it down.
Rip it.
I want to know about your first outing.
Yeah.
Tell us about your first time mountain biking. Like where you went. What was the difficulty?
Yeah. So
what did your legs feel like afterwards?
So it was that one where I was trying to chase that 55-year-old dude.
That was your first time out.
Yeah. And he whooped me, just smoked me. And I'm the kind of person that it's like, hey, I want to do this thing. And then I just like jump in head first and just I don't really look into it as much as I should. I buy it and then I just do all the research I can.
Gonna make it work.
Yeah, gonna make it work.
Committed now.
Yeah, here I am.
I bought the bike.
I just bought this bike and my wife expects me to ride it because I told her it was to get me in shape. That was my excuse. And so, and it worked. It worked. But that was my first experience and it was
brutal.
It wasn't discouraging though, because the mountain bike community, you'll find that most of them are pretty just like, hey, yeah, if you want to tag along, you can ride with us, whatever. Mm-hmm. They're pretty laid back. Everyone's just happy to be outside. Yeah. And so the guy was real nice. And from there, it got better and better. And then you go on a harder trail and then you're like, dang, I suck.
It's kind of like a reset.
Yeah, you reset.
Reality check.
You just keep going. But that was my first real mountain biking experience. I mean, I've been on gravel trails and stuff, but this was actually climbing, figuring out my gears, trying to learn the technique, and
what's the post recovery like? I can only assume
a ride.
Yeah, I can only assume your legs are pretty trash. So how I guess is there a way that you can not necessarily prevent it, but maybe speed up the recovery and be able to get back out? Oh yeah. You definitely it's the fundamentals of exercising, things like that. You got to stretch before you ride. Yeah. And after, because it's a lot of your large muscle groups are at work when you're just pumping away at the pedals climbing. It's you feel it in your thighs and your large muscle groups. And so if you don't stretch, you're toast for several days. And that's what happened after that first ride. I didn't ride for another week. At least on that. I got out and rode a gravel road just to get loose again. But after that, I learned my lesson. I was I gotta start stretching.
So maybe this is taking us back again. But why mountain biking? Like, I know that you said, like, yeah, that's how I get in the outdoors, but why? Why was it that? Why? What got you into it? What was, like, the spark that's like, yep, I'm going to buy a bike?
Yeah. I watched Red Bull Rampage.
I've seen some of those videos. That's wild.
Anything with Red Bull.
And I was like, I want to drop off a 40-foot cliff on a mountain bike. I'm just kidding. I would never do that. But I was like, that sounds pretty cool. Like, that would be fun. And I had been, like, hungry to get back in the outdoors and to, like, find something.
Right.
And so, really, I was just like, I wasn't being picky at all. I was like, I'll take whatever comes, Mm-hmm. And hiking is fine, but I'm not a huge delayed gratification person. So it's like, if I can get to the end of the trail faster, then that's great. Yeah. I know I should enjoy the journey, and it's more enjoyable on a mountain bike, in my opinion. Yeah. Because, if you find a route, you can jump it, or you can try and
instead of just lift your leg higher.
Yeah, it's like I walk every day. I can do this anywhere I want, but I can't mountain bike anywhere I want to. Right. And so, that's a good question. I think it was just like I was hungry to get out and just start something. I wanted a challenge too, because I think we just get so caught up in the day-to-day, right? And this is, I think, a problem that everyone deals with is you wake up, you go to work, you come home exhausted, you're hanging out with your family, you watch Netflix, and you go to bed over and over and over again. And it's like that was the cycle that I saw myself getting into, and I was like, gosh, dude, I can't do this anymore. Mm-hmm. My mental wellness needs something. It needs a challenge. I need to grow. I need to do something. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it was just like, what's a challenge? What's new? What'll get me outside? Mountain biking. Let's do it. Yeah. Here we go.
Just try it.
Yeah, let's jump in.
Yeah, and something cool with the outdoors. I think, man, I can't think of very many things with the outdoors that doesn't involve some kind of fitness level as well. Right. Some kind of exercise, which, one, fresh air, being in the outdoors is great for your mental state. Right. But we've all learned from a young age that exercise is good for your mental state. It's good for you to get the blood pumping and the endorphins moving. It's not healthy to just sit on the couch all day. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I can't think of very many things in the outdoors that doesn't require some kind of exercise. Yeah. Like hunting definitely does.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about like road hunting. Yeah. There is, but it's just kind of like how committed are you to it? Right. It's kind of like what you're saying. Like you can ride on a gravel road, right? Like that doesn't require tons of physical conditioning.
But Sardine Loop sure does.
Sardine Loop, you better get ready. Yeah.
Sardine Canyon.
That's right.
Hey, there is a Sardine Canyon. We learned, Tom.
That's right. But yeah, I agree. So, and it just like you feel fulfilled when you get done. And it's like after a stressful day of work, going home and watching Netflix, it's like there's no real, I don't know.
I mean, it's like a
you're
brain
still
dump.
Stressed. Yeah, your brain goes numb, but then you go to bed and you're still thinking about it, right? Right. After a stressful day at work, you hop on your bike and you just like push yourself to the limit, try to get, just lose focus of work and just you're on the trail. That's all you're thinking about is just like getting to the next spot, getting over that hill. Yeah. And then you get done after 9 miles of just like racing against the sun, trying to get back before dark. And then you do it and you're like, oh man, like I feel so much better. This is the best,
I don't know if there's self-fulfillment that comes from comfort. I think that
that's
almost
a good point.
Anything that like you feel like, oh yeah, like
get you pumped up.
I'm pumped up. I did something. Yeah. You were uncomfortable at some point.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you don't feel discomfort when you're on your couch eating popcorn, watching Netflix. Yeah. In your underwear.
Right.
It's like a time and place thing. Like
sure, absolutely.
There's times, and that's where I have like some of the best conversations with friends or with like my wife. Yeah. Is when we're watching a show,
Absolutely. Yeah,
that's
so like it's a time and place, but I agree. I think that it does give you a different level of fulfillment than just hanging out on the couch. So I agree with that.
Tom's a good peacemaker. He's like, whoa, okay. Like
for those of you sitting on the couch listening to this,
it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think it is just like a balance thing because if you mountain bike all the time, well then that means you're having to give up something, right? Like you're giving up relationships or you're giving up
it's true
something else. So but I agree with the something difficult makes it rewarding. If it's hard, if it challenges you, there's a reward at the end of it.
For sure.
Which sucks. Yeah. Wouldn't it be nice if it was just like, I feel so fulfilled that I just watched, like binge watch, Stranger Things or something.
Yeah.
It'd be so great.
Yeah. But, there's a balance there, but it was a great blessing to just have that come into my life. And now I'm doing it. Got some friends into it as well. And now they're going after it. And so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, and me and Ben talked, even before we had the idea of having Landon come on, but we were like, we want to do some of these different activities.
Yeah.
And so that might be one of those things where we hit you up and you take us somewhere.
Heck yeah.
Because that'd be a good time.
We'll go do Sardine Loop and
forget that.
Yeah, we'll go up on the lift on Snow Basin.
There we go. Okay, we can do that too. I'm good with that. We'll grab lunch at the top and then ride down.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Anyways, it's awesome.
Yeah,
I like it.
Okay, so I guess the other question. So we had you talk about your first experience.
Yep.
What was your worst experience mountain biking? Was it also your first experience? I don't want to keep coming back to that experience, but what was like the hardest?
I was out of shape. Okay,
old man kicked your trash.
Take it easy, jeez.
I guess did you ever wreck and then it was like wrecked your whole bike trip?
Yeah, no, I mean, the worst wreck I had was the one I talked about where I just overshot, totally just yard sailed. Like, that was the worst wreck I had. But again, it was like, I felt good because I crashed. It was like I was doing something,
Yeah,
I can't crash on my cup. Yeah. That's kind of what I was after. So it was like, hey, I biffed super hard and I was stoked to go home and tell my wife, like, I tried this huge jump and I totally...
Yeah. I pushed the limits.
Yeah, I
did something different.
Pushing myself. I did something different. So, honestly, that wasn't even a bad experience. I thought it was a good time. It's a good story. But, I would say, that was the worst. But that kind of got me hooked. And I was like, this is good. I like this.
Yeah. So it was more of a worst just because you weren't fully prepared for it, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. But, I mean, you got to jump in at some point, right?
For sure.
I just went for it. But I would say some of the best experiences I've had were, I got one of my buddies and, he bought a bike and it was just like, hey man, every Saturday morning, let's go to a new trail as much as we can and just try to explore this area and find new spots. And we went on one trail and there was just like this huge bull moose around the corner. Crazy. Dude, it was so scary. This dude was huge. And we're like, well, if he comes for us, we're dead because we're going uphill and he's faster than we are.
Yeah.
But it was like to get that experience and it just like connects you with nature. And I'm sure you guys would have loved it just because, hunting and all the outdoors, you just appreciate those animals and the creatures out there. And so, getting that exposure as well is pretty fun.
Well, and that's something that we've talked about. We've talked about because you're talking about this uphill. It's brutal. You're going uphill. You're like, if this moose wanted to, it could catch us.
Oh, yeah.
We've talked about that.
Oh, yeah.
These freaking animals, I don't know how they live out there. They're standing on a 90-degree freaking straight down cliff, and they're just standing. Not even sweating it.
Every day. Yeah. It's their everyday life.
And then if they want to, they run straight uphill.
Yep.
Full speed.
Oh, yeah.
No problems.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's frustrating. They probably that moose is probably watching us just like rookies. You guys.
He's like, really? You're in one low?
Yeah,
really?
It's like, and you're breathing super hard. Like, really, guys? Yeah.
And that's super cool too. Yeah. It's like it's so humbling. Anything with the outdoors, you're going into some wild country, and there are some crazy animals. That is just their day to day. They live in that stuff.
Yeah,
that is that morning commute is up this freaking 90 degree.
Their morning commute. Yeah,
that's good. That's just what it is, and so it's cool to have opportunities to step into their world. And experience some of that. That's one of my favorite things I think about archery hunting. Especially elk because it's so intimate. I remember the first time that Tom came with me archery hunting. You were hunting yourself, but you tagged along, and you'd been rifle hunting for a long time. And you were like, "This is incredible! Like, this is so different because we could smell them." Like,
I was gonna say we didn't see anything, but you walk through a bed and you're like, "That is a different smell." I've never smelled that before, and I've hunted for years.
You're stepping into their world completely, and it's so cool. It is humbling.
Yeah,
of how incredible Mother Nature is. Not just animals, but just the terrain, the mountain. Right. You have to have a respect for a mountain. Yeah. When you're mountain biking.
Yeah, when it's kicking your butt and you're only like a quarter of the way through your ride and you're just like, dang, man. But that's the beauty of it. Is like you got to try and conquer that and overcome that. Yeah. Like, it's cool. And
so
go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say, so as far as like in your experience, if someone wanted to like get in shape for mountain biking.
Yeah.
What would be like a good exercise like regimen for them to follow?
Or is it just mountain bike?
I would say buy a mountain bike and start riding it.
Yeah.
Like honestly, that just get into it.
Yeah, just do it. And the key, honestly, is ride your bike. It sounds dumb. It's like, yeah, of course I'm going to ride my bike after I go spend a good amount of money and get into this thing. But I bet like 90% of the people that went and bought bikes during coronavirus thing, like
they're collecting dust in their garage.
Yeah, they probably rode them twice and got busy, you know? And so you do have to set time aside and you've got to commit. But that's what I would say. Like, that's why I progressed as fast as I did and got to do all those other rides, is because it was like I just made a commitment. I was like, I'm going to ride 3 times a week, regardless. I don't care what's going to happen. Like, I'm going to do it. And that was the best exercise. I mean, after a week, I was able to go back to that first trail and go through it.
Yeah.
So
it's just getting comfortable with your equipment.
Yeah. I mean, you could go run a couple miles before you get on a bike, but you're going to get on a bike and it's going to be exhausting.
Yeah.
And so the best way to do it's just pull the trigger, go for it. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we might move away from bikes in a little bit here, but
sure.
When you were first getting into it, we've talked about some of the trail forks, and some of those
trail forks,
some of
Strava,
some of those resources, But I'm guessing you probably didn't use those when you were first starting out. Was it more of a YouTube thing? Was there anyone that you followed to kind of?
Well, and you mentioned your uncle,
yeah. So he was a good resource, and he just told me of resources. So here you go. I mean. There's a channel on YouTube called GMBN. It's these guys from, I don't know, like Great Britain or something. And they're out there and they just give such solid instruction and tutorials on like, here's how you shift when you go up a mountain. Seems pretty easy, but once you're out there, you're like, okay, there actually is technique to this thing.
Yeah.
Here's how to brake. Here's how to body position. Here's how to ride down a steep hill. Here's how to do a drop in a corner. And, they give you all that technique. So I'd highly recommend looking those guys up.
GMBN?
Yeah. I think it stands for Global Mountain Bike Network.
Cool.
Is what it stands for. Those guys are awesome. They'll teach you everything from just like super basic to how to clear a tabletop or how to do a gap jump. And they cover everything.
Cool. That's cool.
And so that's a great resource. That's honestly like all I used when I started. I just watched YouTube videos every night. Yeah. My wife was sick of it. She's like, really? You just watch like mountain bike YouTube? Like that's the most boring thing ever. But to me, it was like,
this is what I want to do.
Like, I'm going to go do this tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'm going to go try this skill and implement it. And so it was pretty cool. So that's a great resource. I would follow those guys for sure. And they give you like tech tips, how to, fix your chain or change your brakes or maintain your bike as well. That's a big part of it that we haven't even touched. We could go on and on about that stuff, but there's just like so much to it that's so fun to like learn a new skill, learn that hobby, just like someone getting into hunting, right?
Yeah.
There's just like so much to it, right?
Yeah.
Anyways, but you don't have to know all of it to get started. That's the beauty.
Right.
It's like you just start riding and you just learn as you go.
Yeah. And there's
The
resources.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's resources. We've talked about this before. If you want to learn a new hobby, if you want to learn a new skill, there's resources.
Right.
You just have to look and put in the effort to do it. But there's a million different resources. So that's good to know.
Yeah. It's great.
I guess just probably, I don't know if this is my final question about mountain biking, but we talked about like the beginning, like the basics, like these are the bare necessities that you need.
Right.
I kind of just want you to briefly touch on like the luxuries. So like the things that like you got now that you're into a little bit more.
Yeah.
But it's like, no, you don't need it, but it sure makes your experience better.
But it sure is nice to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good question too. I would say the thing I loved the most that I got was like I mentioned the dropper post. Mm-hmm. Technically, you don't have to have it. Like you can buy a bike without one, and you can get to the top, and you can loosen up your seat and drop it, and then tighten it back up and go, and you're fine. But that was like a huge luxury to me. When I rode with other guys, it would be like I'd get to the top, drop my seat, and go. Yeah. And I'd turn around and be like, "Where'd they go?" They're like, "Oh, I got to adjust my seat or whatever." You know what I mean?
Losers.
Losers. Gee, come on.
Hey, whoever's riding with Landon, you're a loser.
Try and keep up. No, he's great. He's
Unless
good.
you have a dropper post.
He bought a dropper post. Yeah, he did. I convinced him. We're like, we're good to go.
Okay, you're cool now.
Yeah, so that's a nice luxury. And then there's other things. When you're riding, you get flat tires. Sometimes you're riding rocky terrain, you'll puncture your tire on a stick or whatever. And so one thing that's really nice is having tubeless tires. You can kind of look into that, but pretty self-explanatory. They make the wheels and tires so that you don't have to carry a tube and you just fill it with sealant. It's a super cheap upgrade. I think like $10 at your bike shop if your tire's already tubeless and everything. But they just fill it up, and it's like you don't get punctures as often. When you do, you just throw in a tube, and the luxury tool is like a CO2, like a mini CO2. Yeah. And you just stick it on the tire, pull the trigger, and just and
it just blows it up.
Your tire's good to go. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's pretty sweet. That's a cool luxury to have. I would say a need though is like carry a tube and a hand pump in your pack for sure. Like you got to have that at all times. You don't want to be that guy on the side of the trail like 3 miles in pushing your bike. I was that dude once, and I was pissed because I gave my tube to someone else, and then I popped my tire, and I was like, whatever, dude, whatever.
I'm just walking.
Yeah, I walked 2 miles out to my pickup and went and bought a tube the next day, but anyways, so it's like, just having that, those are some essentials, but the luxury is like when you have that CO2, it's just, you have it, you're good to go in like 2 minutes.
Right.
Right. And I would say like the luxuries in mountain biking, you don't need a whole lot of gear, honestly.
So it kind of more comes from more expensive bikes.
Yeah. It's more of like the components piece of things, and like the tires that you buy, you can get, $20 tires, or you can get $80 tires that are just like super grippy and you can tell the difference. And so
gotcha.
Things like that. That's where the luxuries come in, is when you're like upgrading your bike and your drivetrain, meaning like your chain and pedals and the shifting mechanisms, things like that. But the luxuries, having a padded chamois.
Wow for your bum.
That's a luxury right there. I would highly encourage that. But
so you're saying a hand pump and a tube. You're bringing a bag with you. You backpack every time you go.
Yeah.
What else do you have in that?
I usually carry Excedrin.
Yeah.
Or is it Excedrin? Is that the one that's like a painkiller or something?
Yeah.
I don't know. If you get migraines or something, that's what I do.
Some
caffeine in there.
Yeah. Just pop that in. I know like Mountain Ops has great stuff, right?
Yeah.
So
plug for Mountain Ops.
Yeah, plug for Mountain Ops right there. Like if you've got a pack or something like that you can put in your water and just pound that, like that's a big deal. And then I just have like a tool pack that has a multi-tool, and they make them custom for mountain bikes. And so they have like certain Allen sizes for a wrench. So you have Allen keys that are like specific sizes to mountain bikes, kind of a thing.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So that's really nice. And then they have tools on that multi-tool that like you can swap your chain out, or like take a link out if you break your chain. I had to do that a couple times, and just like when you're in the middle of the trail, you're not gonna carry a chain with you because it adds extra weight that you don't really need. So it's important you can just like pop out a link, put it back together, you're back on the trail ready to go.
Yeah.
So that's nice to have. And I try to pack light, honestly, because you don't want to have a ton of weight, but that's definitely like essentials. You got to have that stuff when you go out. You got to have a tube, got to have some kind of pump or a CO2.
Yeah.
They have like tire tools as well. You got to have those. And then a multi-tool. Like those are the basics. Everything else, I have water. I just have a Camelback that I ride with, and then a water bottle cage.
Yeah.
And that's mostly it. And then a flashlight. I'd definitely recommend carrying one of those. Yeah. I've gotten a little
for those nighttime ride outs.
I got in over my head a couple times, and I'm like, I can make it before it gets dark.
Yeah.
And then it got dark real quick, and you're like, oh crap.
We've talked about that before. Important things we have in our packs, and like a headlamp is one of our number one things.
You gotta have it.
I've now got I think 2, just because.
Yeah.
Because what if the batteries die?
Yeah.
And then I have extra battery, but
Yeah.
You need to be able to see.
You got to be prepared in that regard. And then I have like a tire kit to like plug holes as well. So say my tubeless pops, I put in a tube, and that pops, then I have a plug that I can plug it with and ride out. If it keeps happening, I'll just ditch my bike and leave.
Walk out.
Just get out. Anyways, that's another good thing to have on hand for sure. So, but other than that, I mean, you don't want to carry too much stuff, but I'll always have a Cliff Bar or something like that in my backpack as well. Get to the top, have a Cliff Bar or a Mountain Ops bar or whatever you got there, and then
shop for CountinOutdoors.com.
That's right. There you go.
For all your Mountain Ops
plug
names.
there, but seriously, that stuff's crucial to have.
It is,
because you get to the top and you have a headache or you feel exhausted and you've got 4 more miles to go.
Yeah,
it's like you want to be able to consciously think as you're going down this hill or this mountain.
Yeah.
Same thing with hunting. Like you don't want to be in the backcountry exhausted,
struggling.
Yeah. And so that's a good thing to have as well. Just some nourishment for you.
You still want to enjoy it.
Yeah. You don't want to be like starving and lightheaded and then you crash and then your day's super bad.
Yeah.
Then you got to call your wife and be like, honey, I'm a loser. I didn't prepare.
I'm not going to make it.
Come pick me up.
Yeah. So anyways, that's good stuff to have though. That's a great question.
Well, I think that kind of wraps up our mountain biking conversation. I think we're going to take a brief break.
Yeah.
And we'll come back and we're going to talk a little bit about snow machining if you're still up for it.
Oh, yeah. Let's do it.
Okay.
This might be another episode, so this might be the end. If so, thanks for listening. If not, we'll be back in a sec.
Sweet. I like it.